Right now, is the New York Democratic Party a house divided? Now, you know about the fight between de Blasio and Cuomo, not exactly best of buddies lately, but now a rift in Harlem, or a fight rooted in ethnic identity between Charlie Rangel and his primary challenger, Adriana Espaillat, is spilling into public view. So why aren't Democrats playing nicely in the Empire State? And then, he's back. Donald Rumsfeld, who led America into two bungled wars, has the nerve to be calling out President Obama when it comes to foreign policy. Is he just the latest throwing stones from the GOP's glass houses? And later, Mississippi justice, the state set to execute a woman even though her own son confessed to the very crime, and set to prosecute a woman for murder following a stillborn birth. Our legal panel will sound off. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, March 26th. Now, we're going to have more on all those stories coming up, but let's start off with President Obama going nuclear on New York City, so to speak. Now, the president, he was talking nuclear security when he was asked how big a threat he thought Russia was to the U.S. Here's his answer.
Russia is a regional power that is threatening some of its immediate neighbors, not out of strength, but out of weakness. They don't pose the #1 national security threat to the United States.
Okay, not too veiled smack there to Russia, but then came a line that seemed to get a whole lot more attention, particularly here in New York.
I continue to be much more concerned when it comes to our security with the prospect of a nuclear weapon going off in Manhattan.
Okay. Now that prompted this rather apocalyptic front page from the Daily News. Yes, you see it correctly. That's a mushroom cloud over Manhattan with a headline, "Thank you for sharing." Now, the president's comment, while unusual, is certainly not the first time anybody suggested New York as a terror target. I mean, really. The movie The Peacemaker, you go back there, the early Clooney days, it had George and Nicole Kidman scrambling through Midtown to stop a would-be terrorist with a backpack nuke. And of course, the city has been, yes, the actual target of a terror before. Still, Daily News editorial page, they went after Obama for that remark, even if it was something of a mixed message. Quote, "Now, New Yorkers know what President Obama means when he talks about a nuclear freeze. It's the blood-chilling sensation that he inflicted by expressing worry about an atomic attack here. We could have done without visions that loomed a mushroom cloud over Rockefeller Center, a radiation-poisoned Times Square." But on the flip side, the paper went on to say that Obama did convey that he is reassuringly vigilant about protecting New York from dangers that far too many wrongly believe were either fanciful or have receded. Okay, so I'm telling you, this is the only thing people were talking about. The president comments, if they went too far, I gotta admit, I didn't register it as that huge a headline here. So what do you think? Is this much ado about nothing, or did the president actually send an unnecessary scare to New Yorkers? And answering that and the other topics of the day, who else but our panel here, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent. Much ado about nothing, or when you heard what the president said, you said, TMI here, way too much information, way too detailed about New York?
I don't know if I would classify it as either. I think the president was just telling it the way it is. That is his reality each and every morning. Not just New York, but Richard, as you know, other metropolitan areas, rural areas as well. But New York, I would imagine, for terrorists is target #1. New York City's been hit twice, 91, the first terrorist bombing, and then the September 11th. The president just, you know, we second guess him on protecting us almost every day, but this is his reality.
You know, I'm sure that the press secretary, Jay Carney, when he heard him say that, was like, because it's not something you want the guy to do if you're working in his shop. You don't want to specify one particular place as being a target and something like that. I think it was something of a gaffe in terms of what came out while he was answering the question. It was off the cuff, it was Q&A, it was not a scripted remark. Having said that, I think this was, you know, a little bit of a much ado about nothing. Clearly he's trying to stop a bomb going off anywhere, but we've heard before about worries about a dirty bomb in New York or worries about, a ricin leak in New York or something like that. It's the #1 target in the United States. Of course it is.
Yeah, I'll be honest though. What I heard a bunch of guys this morning say, "Do you believe he said that?" And my first inclination was, timeout. You think all of a sudden some guy in some cave is saying, whoa, that's right. There's nuclear weapons. They could do a whole lot of damage. Right. And you know what? My God, why are we going? New York, there's a lot of people there. Who would have thought it?
I was going to go after Des Moines.
Right, and then what an idea the president gave. Anybody really thought he was going there? All right, I want to pivot here really quickly to something on the president's calendar, nothing to do with that comment. He's sitting down with the Pope here. He's got a meeting with Pope Francis. And while presidents have met with popes, and it's a great photo op and everything else, the two of them have been echoing a similar message, at least on one front, and that is that the economic divide is too big and the have-nots are losing out day after day. Do you think for the first time, at least I believe, since going back to Reagan and Pope John Paul, that there's more than maybe just a meeting of the minds, but they both may share shared purposes here?
Well, and that's the agenda tomorrow. On their agenda is going to be talking about
economic inequality, right?
Economic inequality. That's what they both have the shared interest in. I'm sure that Obama will try to make some political hay out of it. I mean, you hope that there's not going to be, if you're on the president's staff, you're hoping that there's not going to be an area of disagreement, or the Pope doesn't stick some subject
policies,
right, that's something that comes in that they're not expecting. But I think this has the potential to be a real buoy for President Obama if all goes well.
I mean, this pontiff's popular, Dominic. I got to think, with all the challenges with Obamacare, et cetera, if the president can find some way to tie the optics to say, I'm with the Pope on this, we both agree that this is an issue that we have to address here. We're talking about fairness. It's hard to go after him on that one if he's got the guy, in the white robe on his side.
It's a winning message for Democrats, and I know you're going to bring up this issue later, but when you have Rumsfeld saying some of the things that he's saying, it's there goes that foot in the mouth disease for Republicans. So this is a win-win for the president.
All right, of course, we're going to talk much more about it tomorrow in the days ahead. But coming up next, are New York Democrats a house divided? Now, you know about the feuds between the mayor, I'm talking Bill de Blasio, of course, and Governor Cuomo. But now that's spilling on a different front. And they're not the only Democrats taking their private battles public. I'm going to ask Dominic what's going on in Harlem. That's straight ahead.